call the November 12th, 2020 meeting of the Parker Planning Commission to order at 7 p.m. John, do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. Roll call. Ileana.
Present.
Susan is absent. Rich.
Present.
Eric. Eric is absent at a football game. John.
Here.
Tracy is absent. Ruth Ann.
Here.
Kim.
Here.
Anthony.
Here.
And the chair is present. So tonight, Ileana, Rich, John, Ruth Ann, Kim, and Anthony, and the chair will be seated. Anthony is seated for Eric. Bryce, are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay. Approval of the minutes. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes from the October 29th meeting?
No, sir.
No. All right. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move to approve the October 29th, 2020 meeting minutes.
I'll second.
It's been moved by John, seconded by Rich and Ileana, that we approve the minutes from the October 29th, 2020 meeting. I will call the question. Ileana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
Eric, John?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
And chair is aye, passes unanimously. Okay, little statement here before we begin. We want to thank you for attending the Parker Planning Commission meeting. Before the meeting begins and the hearings begin, I want to emphasize that if you wish to make public comments on any of the items at this hearing, you must be joined in the Zoom webinar link posted on the town's website, www.parkeronline.org/planningcommission. Facebook Live participants are only able to view and listen to the meeting. Now would be a good time to leave Facebook and join the Planning Commission meeting on Zoom if you wish to comment on any agenda item by using the Zoom raise your hand feature. We appreciate your attendance at this meeting and your cooperation. We as sitting members take this role and responsibility and duties of the commission seriously. When we as the Planning Commission review site plans, zonings, and other land use requests during a public hearing, the Planning Commission is sitting as a quasi-judicial body. For projects that are under review by the town, we are unable by state law to discuss matters of the project when approached by members of the public outside of a public hearing. That does not mean we are not engaged or interested in hearing from members of the public, quite the opposite. We encourage and appreciate public participation as a part of the public hearing process. The public hearing is where we listen to comments, concerns, technical analysis, and other information provided by town staff, the developer, and the public. This information, combined with the requirements of the Land Development Ordinance, state and federal laws, allows the Planning Commission to remain objective, fair, and balanced when making a recommendation or taking action. Simply put, the Planning Commission is required by law to remain impartial to ensure that each project, the developer, town staff, and the overall community gets the due process it deserves. All right, our public hearings, 7A. That's Olde Town at Parker, a rezone, and we will open the public hearing at 7:04. I think this is Stacy?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, Stacy, okay. Stacy, we're all yours.
All right, we'll let Rosemary get the presentation started. Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission members.
Good evening.
Hello.
So this evening, the applicant is requesting an amendment to the Olde Town at Parker plan development. This will add an additional 12 acres to the development to allow for single-family attached residential uses or townhomes. The proposal before you tonight is a zoning amendment only. Details for the layout and look or elevations of the product will be evaluated in future application submittals. Next slide, please. So the site is located on the south side of Main Street between Jordan Road and Motzenbacher Road. The overall Olde Town at Parker planned development, which is outlined in red above. The site is bounded on the east by American Academy at Motzenbacher and to the west by the Main Street Dental Plaza commercial development. To the north of the site is the Clark Farm single-family residential neighborhood, and to the south is Olde Town Senderos Creek neighborhood that is currently under construction. The proposed PD amendment, which is highlighted in blue above, will add 12.16 unplatted acres located north of the original development, which were annexed into the town in 2014. These 12.16 acres would be zoned Planning Area 9 and would allow for single-family attached townhome development for a total of 122 units at a density of 10 units per acre. The 2 commercial lots in the adjacent drainage area are currently located in Planning Area 1 and are designated as Commercial Center. This area will remain largely unchanged in terms of use, with the exception of a 1.86 acre portion of the drainage tract mentioned above. The drainage area will be reclaimed, redesigned, and incorporated into the newly residential planning areas. Next slide, please. So a little bit of background on this property. The Olde Town at Parker property was annexed in 2000 with a PD zoning that provided for 5.5 acres of a commercial area, 595 residential units, and a series of parks. In 2003, the PD was amended and a sketch and preliminary plan was approved that enlarged the commercial area, which is Planning Area 1, to 13.35 acres. The commercial area is shown here inside the red squares. The commercial area includes the access drive and a adjacent drainage swell on the east property of the planning area, shown here shaded in blue. The residential development under this PD was also reorganized to create a central park and community center area within the Olde Town project. Construction of the western half of the PD ceased in 2008 with the economic downturn. In 2017, the eastern half of the original development was approved for single-family detached and paired homes. Platting of this area completed the original subdivision and is currently under construction. Next slide, please. On August 3rd, 2020, Town Council considered a rezoning for this property that proposed 108 condominium units and 48 single-family attached residential units. The proposal at the time included a maximum height of 45 feet for the condominiums and a maximum density of 17 dwelling units per acre. The proposed increase in height was 10 feet higher than the surrounding zoning, and the density was greater than the rest of the planning areas in the PD. Town Council denied the previous request based on the requested height, density, and the use of condominiums. The applicant's current proposal maintains the same maximum height as existing Olde Town PD and the Clark Farms PD to the north. The proposed use and density aligns with the existing density allowed in the Olde Town PD. No condos are proposed. It would only be townhomes. Next slide, please. The 12.16 acre site that will be added to the Olde Town at Parker development is currently vacant and zoned agricultural. Structures on the site include an abandoned house that will be demolished and a communications tower or cell tower that will remain. Next slide, please. This proposal is consistent with the Parker 2035 master plan, which identifies this area as medium density residential and within a neighborhood center. The medium density residential designation recommends an overall density of 3.5 units per acre, while the neighborhood center designation allows for higher density when applied in a mixed-use walkable development. This project integrates commercial uses with adjacent residential and recreational uses through pedestrian-oriented alternative access routes, creating a sense of community among those that work, live, and play within the neighborhood. Next slide, please. The current Olde Town PD allows for 4.51 dwelling units per acre. The proposed plan development amendment will result in an increase to an overall density of 5.02 units per acre. The proposed 12.16 additional acres will have a maximum density of 10 units per acre. Currently, planning areas 2 and 3 of the existing PD allow for densities similar to what is being proposed. In addition, the maximum height for the new planning area will be limited to 35 feet, which is consistent with the other planning areas within the planned development. Next slide, please. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning. These criteria are used to ensure that the rezoning is consistent with the surrounding area, will not result in overuse of the land, create traffic congestion, or be detrimental to the town. Next slide, please. The proposed PD amendment aligns with the permitted densities in other planning areas of Old Town PD. This will not change the densities in any of the existing planning areas, but will increase the overall density in the planned development by about a half a dwelling unit per acre. Future applications for site development will be required to meet all town landscaping, open space, and park dedication requirements. This proposal is consistent with the Parker 2035 master plan, which identifies this area as medium density residential and within a neighborhood center. The uses, density, and overall design considerations recommended for this district are consistent with the proposed PD and with the 9 approval criteria for rezoning requests. So all referral agency comments have been addressed. All public notice requirements have been satisfied and is properly before you tonight. The applicant has also held 2 neighborhood meetings before this evening and went okay. So therefore, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Old Town at Parker PD Guide 3rd Amendment. This concludes staff's report. The applicant, Norris Design, has a presentation and is present tonight to answer any questions the commissioners might have. And I'm available for any questions you might have as well.
Okay, we'll start with questions for Stacy. Ileana?
None from me at the moment.
Rich?
None right now.
John?
None right now.
Ruth Ann?
None right now.
Kim?
Not yet.
Anthony?
No, nothing.
No quick questions from the chair. All right, the applicant, Mr. Who is presenting tonight?
It'll be Bill Mahar.
Okay, Mr. Mahar, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you, Stacy, for your presentation of the staff report. I do have some slides if they could be brought forward.
They don't let me touch the keyboard, so I have to keep my hands back.
That's all for the best.
Yeah. There it is.
Wonderful. Thank you, Rosemary. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Bill Maher, and I'm with Norris Design, and I'm here tonight to present this project. We understand many of you are very familiar with this project, but for the benefit of residents who are hearing about this project for the first time, we'd like to provide a little background on the project. Next slide. Tonight, I'm joined by the applicant and the property owner, Brian Byler, and members of the project team, Alex Wren, project architect, myself, the planner, Dave Jenkins with Norris Design, landscape architect, Dave Rubel, traffic engineer, civil engineer, David Kuntz with Martin & Martin. Next slide. Next slide, please. And Stacy did an excellent job of differentiating this application from the previous one, but I'll just briefly touch on that. What has changed with this new application? A month ago, approximately, we submitted a new PD amendment application. We have removed the condominium use and reduced the overall density of our specific planning area from 15 dwelling units per acre to 10 dwelling units per acre, which is consistent with many of the planning areas within this overall PD. Next slide, please. Mr. Byler has been committed for the long term to this neighborhood. He has been improving and completing the neighborhood development since we started working on plans in 2016. And as you see, we have received approval on the developments in the neighborhoods to the south in 2018, and those are under construction by Meritage Homes. And the community pool was approved in 2018, and now the construction has been finalized late summer, early fall. Next slide. And we have been very busy working hand in hand with the town staff and the homeowner association and the Metro District. As I mentioned, the pool has been complete. We've added park improvements per the recommendation of staff that are adjacent to the pool area. We've also improved drainage for the overall neighborhood. And many of the trees over the years have been damaged throughout this neighborhood on some of the unfinished areas of this neighborhood. And we have replanted over 100 trees throughout the neighborhood. And we have also added sidewalk connections and trail connections in areas that were intended to be built but never were. And those were not required as part of the approval. And a couple things I'd like to point out on this slide. You will see we have improved Motzenbacher median improvements, which we'll explain a little bit further in the presentation. Along here with some very nice landscaping and a connection. We worked with American Academy to provide a connection from the neighborhood to the school. Next slide. Thank you. Building on the strong tradition of Parker neighborhoods and the original vision for the neighborhood, we've completed the missing trail connections that I pointed out in the previous slide that were not required for approval. And tonight, this graphic shows you where our proposed rezoning is in the kind of orange square in the north portion of the development. And the white dashed lines show the future potential pedestrian connections. So you see all of the sidewalk improvements that are dashed throughout this entire slide that we have been working hard to install, which will provide the connections for the overall neighborhood that were initially part of the overall plan. Next slide. Next slide, please. Thank you. And this is the pool is something we're very proud of. It was completed this fall and now is owned and maintained by the Metro District and the HOA. We are very proud of the design as this team worked on the development and design of this facility. And we've heard a lot of positive comments from neighborhood residents this past fall. Next slide. And just to show you a few of the improvements that have been going on in the neighborhood this year, the picture on the left is some tree lawn improvements along Motzenbacher. The picture in the middle is representative of some park improvements that were planted this summer while the pool was being finished, the construction was being finished. And the photo on the right is the landscaping in the road median along Motzenbacher. Next slide. And if you could go to the next one as well. Thank you. And to look a little bit closer at the project, at the site area that is under your approval tonight for the rezone. It is 12.16 acres and is currently zoned agricultural. And next slide. And the existing conditions of the site. Town staff have referred to this as a blighted site. And this rezoning will ultimately improve by bringing in this housing product to provide compatibility to the existing neighborhood and improve the pedestrian connections we pointed out earlier, and also allow for the development of future road connections. Next slide. And as Stacy mentioned, we had 2 neighborhood meetings, one held in October 7th and October 28th, that were part of this application. We had good turnouts at both, and we feel we have received a lot of good positive and constructive comments from the neighbors. And prior to that, under the old application, it should be noted that we had at least 4 neighborhood meetings from about 2017 up until 2019 on the previous application, and also numerous meetings with the Metro District and HOA. So we have been working hand in hand with them all through this process. So what are the next steps after this rezoning? The sketch and preliminary plan, the subdivision, we are targeting the first week in December to submit that. And then the site plan will be submitted in 2021. And as Stacy mentioned, the zoning information. This application reduces the overall residential density down to 10 dwelling units per acre for our site. What this results in for the entire PD area of a overall density of 4.75 dwelling units per acre. And one thing to note is with the inclusion of townhomes on this site, the setbacks that will be required for the development of townhomes are actually greater than they are for single-family homes. So the single-family homes that are surrounding this on the north and south will have greater setbacks between them and the future townhomes because they are townhomes. A 40-foot setback is required. Next slide. And this is just an example of the plan development plan. This is what we're talking about. This is our main document that shows all of the planning areas. Next slide. And as Stacy commented on the overall density of the neighborhood. So if you see our site in the square in the top north part of the drawing, and then these other planning areas, we have planning area 3 with a density of 10 dwelling units per acre. We have planning area 2 with a overall density of 15 dwelling units per acre. So we are really fitting in with what is the context of the surrounding neighborhood. And I'd like to draw your attention to the little chart over in the left. And this lays out the year the PDs were approved or amended. And in 2003, the original PD proposed 595 dwelling units with a proposed overall density of 5.7 dwelling units per acre. In 2017, Mr. Byler amended the PD, and the number of units changed to 493 with a proposed density of 4.20. We are coming in now with the addition of this 12 acres to be added to the PD. Now that allows for a total throughout the entire neighborhood for the overall PD from Jordan Road to Motzenbacher, Todd on the south, and Main Street on the north. Proposed dwelling units of 615, and actually the amount of homes that we will be constructing allows for a overall density of 4.75 dwelling units per acre. So we are coming in below than what was previously approved. Next slide. And Stacy did a great job of speaking to how this project is consistent with the zoning criteria, the master plan, and the attributes of the master plan being a walkable community. We feel this development fulfills that goal. Next slide. And this development, with the amount of parks we're planning, sidewalks, trails, really will embrace an active lifestyle that is very indicative of Parker neighborhoods. And we're excited about the housing options of townhomes to provide housing options for a wider range of the population. Next slide, please. And Just to conclude on what this project will provide and help complete this neighborhood. We've recently completed the community pool that was promised to the neighborhood back in 2003, and added park enhancements, expanded the pedestrian connections, and we will also be building roads to the commercial development with this that will provide easy access to those areas and improve the conditions of those existing roads. What this will result in is a full service community where people living within this neighborhood will have overall better access to the commercial uses in the northwest area. Next slide. And we have a resident from the Metro District that is with us tonight. Mike, would you like to speak on behalf of this project?
Yes, sorry, Bill, I was on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. So yes, I'm Mike Heimerl. I'm the treasurer of the Metro District, and I'm also the treasurer on the Metro Masters Association board for Newtown. So as Bill was saying, we've been working with Brian in Pacific North since 2016 on these projects. So we refinanced the bonds. So the bond refinancing for the Metro District was planned. Those bonds were sold with these townhomes included in that process, in that transaction. So by having these homes built, we'll keep the Metro District financially viable to pay off that debt going forward. And as also has been mentioned, the funds were provided to get a larger pool. The pool was always a requirement, but we got a larger pool complex and some other additional amenities because of that funding. And also too, there's a funding available to enhance the landscaping throughout the community. So as a result, the Metro District is in support. We issued a letter that I believe the town has in support of this project moving forward. And also the Metro District Association issued a letter similarly that the Master Association Board of Directors is also on board to have this project move forward. So we're in support of it, both as the Metro District and as the Master Association. And I think that's all I have. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike. And just to speak in simpler terms, the Master Association is also referred to as the Homeowners Association, and we have a letter of support from them. Next slide, please. And Brian, are you available to speak to this slide? I think Brian.
Sure. Good evening, Planning Commission. We've worked kind of hand in hand on the original development, Senderos Creek, to finish off what was a broken project. And we worked hand in hand with the town of Parker to basically at this point address all of the financial commitments, which included $2 million in funding for the widening of Motzenbacher and the future crossings and the traffic light. And of course, the community pool that was mentioned a couple times, as well as a lot of other amenities and connecting trails and basically finishing off the community. So this was done and the bonds were sold and the commitments were made that this 12-acre property would be included and be a part of that. So we're excited to bring this to conclusion and finish off the final development.
Thank you, Brian. Next slide, please. Thank you, commissioners and staff. We are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions for the applicant, Ileana?
I did, this is also probably for Stacy. All conditions were met, correct?
Stacy?
Are you asking, are all of the conditions satisfied for the rezoning or for the annexation agreement?
For the annexation agreement.
So far, all the conditions required of the applicant to this point have been satisfied. The property that we are talking about tonight was annexed in 2004 as an enclave annexation, which means that it was annexed because the town surrounded that property. And so it was without the property owner's consent. So there is no additional annexation agreement there, if that answers your question.
It does. Thank you.
Rich?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So Springfield Court will be an entrance into this complex. Is that the only entrance, or is there another road planned for, say, more than one, like 2 entrances?
So there's going to be more than one. So there's going to be a connection into the proposal from Senderos Creek to the south. And then it'll also connect to the commercial area to the west through 1 and possibly 2 connections to get you out to both Main Street and Jordan Road.
Okay. And then there's 122 townhomes. Are there going to be, how many visitor parking spots will be allowed or provided for?
So when we get to the site plan process, the town code will have to be satisfied. And what that requires is the applicant's going to have to provide the parking spaces required for each unit. And then this is considered multifamily. So in addition to having those parking spaces per each unit, they're going to have to provide a quarter of a space per unit or 1 space per every 4 units, if that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Stacy, may I add to that?
Sure.
As you know, commissioners, we are not reviewing a site plan today, but at the neighborhood meetings, we heard that about parking from the neighbors. And we assured them that we will absolutely meet code for parking because we're required to, but we will make sure we can exceed parking to, a certain extent.
Thank you. John?
Well, I know we're not quite there yet, but could I have a little more information on the median landscaping that was mentioned? I don't know if that would be from Stacy or from Bill.
I can answer that. Commissioner, the landscaping that I referred to has been installed, I think back in 2019 within Motzenbacher Road. So that has been completed. And that was part of the $2 million investment that Mr. Byler made to the town of Parker for that infrastructure and beautification project.
Hey, so there'll be no additional landscaping for the median?
No, that project was driven by the town, and we met their requirements and did what they requested. So the landscape median is complete, as far as I know, unless the town has other plans.
Okay, and I have one other question, Bill. You mentioned that you were, with American Academy, you had reached an agreement on an access point between the community and American Academy. Will that be a paved trail to allow all the residents who live in the entire Newtown, Old Town areas to access American Academy without going to any main street?
Well, we did work with American Academy, and this was back in 2017 and 2018. And it's on the south side of their campus. And the south side of their campus is at grade with the development, the homes that are going in right now. So it was easy to make a pedestrian connection from the current development that is under construction by putting in a paved sidewalk that would lead right to their front door. And that seemed like the most prime location for that pedestrian connection. And that has already been installed.
Well, thank you very much.
Ruth Ann?
A couple questions. Following in on that, did that fulfill the DCSD conditions that they asked for in their comment letter?
No. So the Douglas County School District requirements from this rezoning is an additional request for additional funds to support the school district through this rezoning. So because this property was annexed into the town and zoned agricultural, there is no annexation agreement that said what funds were going to be paid until such time as the rezoning. So this is the rezoning And then as we get down the line, the next application they'll have to submit is a sketch and preliminary. And then when we get to that final plat, that's when we're actually going to write it into a subdivision agreement. And the applicant's going to have to pay us those, or pay the school district those fees in order to record that that plat.
Okay, because I got the impression that one of the concerns from the school district was access, road access, and that was why I was wondering if this paved access was fulfilling that concern of theirs.
Bill, do you want to take that one about the access from American Academy?
Well, that access is off Motzenbacher, which is a public road, and that is not a purview to our specific site. But we will certainly meet the requirements for development and rezoning and sketch plan that are required to Douglas County School District. Absolutely.
Roseanne, I think that's a different project. The school district was concerned about two roads access into that's another item that we're looking at later. I'm almost
Oh, I must have gotten my notes mixed up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
positive.
Okay. The only other question I had was, in your response, you indicated that that this was going to provide some lower price points for housing. And I was just wondering if you could give us a general idea, since you brought it up, what the actual product price points you were looking at for the townhomes.
Well, I will defer that question to Mr. Byler.
We're still working on finishing all the pricing and the marketing based upon a final site plan, and we haven't gotten there yet. So we're just focused on the rezoning right now. And obviously we had a change from where we were before a few months ago. So we're just still in the middle of that process right now and identifying a builder.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Kim?
Sorry. I currently don't have any questions yet.
Okay. Anthony?
No questions. Good presentation.
Chair has no questions. As this is a public hearing, we always invite the public to comment on matters before the commission. And if you have a question about this particular project that is before us, the Olde Town at Parker Plan Development Third Amendment rezone, use the raise your hand feature on the application, and we will call on you. You have 3 minutes, please. And that's the standard that is used in the town for public comment at this time. And so Rosemary will take the first one.
Chair, we have Kristen Parsons as the first.
Right. All right, Ms. Parsons. Welcome. She's muted.
Her hand may just have been up from before.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, Ms. Parsons. Welcome to our meeting.
Well, thank you very kindly. Okay, I have a couple of questions, if you would allow me.
Okay, you have 3 minutes, but okay.
Okay, well, if you don't mute me this time. My question is, you mentioned the rep from Norris mentioned that they dropped the condos. Who pushed for that?
Well, I will answer when you finish your comment because we don't want to take up your time.
Okay, well, he went on to say something about 2003 to 2020, they held the proposed density, and I just don't understand. They're really patting themselves on the back for holding the proposed density, and if you're just going to cut condos, well, that makes perfect sense. So I'm just wondering, this proposed density and the pat on the back for removing condos, where did that come from? It's easy to hold the density down if you just say, well, let's just not build condos. So that's my question to the gentleman with Norris.
Okay. And is that all?
My second question is, if it took from 2003 to 2020 to build a rectangular pool, I wouldn't strain too hard to pat yourself on the back on the pool. The third question, I guess, is, and this would be more to the Parker planning, is I heard someone from Norris say that Parker there was a requirement for $2 million of beautification. Is that correct? Is
Okay,
that what
so
I'm understanding?
We'll answer your questions when you finish, when your time is up.
Because we're getting ready to discuss something with Leon Capital where there's a requirement for them to donate an easement. And I'm starting to see a trail of a huge conflict of interest here. So I'd like for you guys to address how it's okay for you to require a builder to spend $2 million on beautification.
30 seconds, Chair.
Okay.
Ms. Parsons, can you state your name?
Excuse me, there's 30 seconds left. So there seems to be this trail of conflict of interest that, hey, you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours. You give me the easement so I can put a sign up that's a dedication to Parker, and we'll make sure that you get Chase Bank on the corner. I don't like
3 minutes, Chair.
Okay, your time is up. Ms. Parsons, could you please state your address for the record, please?
Wait, I asked for the guy's name who made the comment about the Christmas cards, and he couldn't even say his name. You want me to give you my address? Yeah.
All right, fine. That's enough.
Come on.
Rosemary.
We have no other hands, Chair.
All right. Okay, then we will close the public comment. Are there any further questions from commissioners for the applicant or the town?
None for me.
We'll go down the list again. Rich?
None.
John?
None.
Ruth Ann?
No.
Kim?
So I'm assuming we'll have those questions that Ms. Parsons asked addressed here shortly.
Yeah, I can have Stacy answer those and the
Perfect.
developer.
Then none. Thank you.
Anthony?
Sorry, no.
And the chair has none. Stacy, in a short bit, could you, I'm not even sure how to respond.
Yeah, so I can kind of answer a few of those questions. The reason the condos were removed is because the surrounding residential community did not feel that it fit in and was not the right place for those condos. They wanted less dense and the single family attached units similar to what's already there. So that's the reason the condos were taken away or removed from this proposed PD amendment. The reason the pool took so long is, and I can just give it from a town perspective, is we write annexation agreements when properties are annexed into the town. Within that annexation agreement, there's several criteria of items that have to be completed, and then timing for when those items have to be completed. The pool was kind of held off till the end of the development, just the way it was written. In addition, in 2008, with the economic downturn, development in this community just ceased, kind of town-wide. And so that's kind of why it took so long to get to this point. The $2 million was not just for beautification. And so what the town requires is that development has to pay its own way. And what that means is that certain improvements to accommodate development have to be made. So for this development, it was identified that Motzenbacher Road would have to be expanded. Before, not too long ago, it was a 2-lane road, 1 lane in each direction. With this development, and then there's a development off to the east, those 2 developments added a lot more traffic to Motzenbacher Road. And because of that, the road needed to be expanded. And so it's the developer's requirement to expand that road. So that's the portion of why the $2 million was required. Part of that $2 million does go into medians based off of the road typology and what's required.
Okay.
May I say one thing?
Sure.
I just want to add that we bought the development in 2016, so we haven't been working on the pool since 2003. Did take longer than we all expected, but we were just fulfilling commitments that were made by previous developers that never fulfilled those. So I just wanted to make that clear for everybody.
Okay. I think that's that takes care of that. And so anything else for the staff or the applicant? Not hearing anything. We will close the public hearing at 7:46. Commissioner discussion, Ileana.
I think the tough questions have been asked and responded to, so I don't see anything that is out of the norm, and I'm going to agree to move this forward.
Rich?
I believe that this proposal will expand much needed affordable housing in the Parker area and give a lot more options to meet the needs of a wider range of the population. So I'm in favor of it.
Thanks, Rich. John?
As staff stated, this does meet the 9 zoning criteria, and I agree with Rich. It's going to give more opportunity, and I'm also quite pleased with the developers' work with the community to adjust from the condo that we saw previously to this format of townhomes. I think it'll be a nice enhancement to the neighborhood, and I will be moving to support it.
Thanks, John. Ruth Ann?
I'd like to echo that I'm very pleased with how hard the developer has worked to work with the surrounding community. The area needs to be developed to finish out that neighborhood, and I think it'll be a welcome addition. So I will be in support.
Kim?
I agree with my fellow commissioners. I think it fits the area, and like Ruth Ann said, to finish out that neighborhood. It looks like they've done some really nice improvements, so I'll be in support.
Anthony?
Yeah, I just agree with everything that everybody said so far. I've been hugely impressed with the fact that we have a 2035 plan and that everybody works so hard. We've heard from Mr. Marr before in these meetings, and I'm just very impressed at how hard the planning department works to make sure that everything is strictly in accordance with the plan, and how hard the developers and the planners all work together to make sure that what comes forward meets the plan, and also, as somebody just said, with the community involvement. And I think that's very crucial also. So I will certainly be voting to move this ahead.
I don't have anything to add other than I appreciate the developer working with the community again, as some of the commissioners have stated. And so, Anthony, do you want to make a motion?
Yes, I will. Thank you. I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve an ordinance for the Old Town at Parker Plan Development Guide, 3rd Amendment.
Second.
It's been moved by Anthony, seconded by Ileana, that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve an ordinance for the Old Town at Parker Plan Development Guide, 3rd Amendment. And I will call the question. Ileana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth Ann,
Aye.
Kim,
Aye.
Anthony,
Aye.
chair is aye, passes unanimously. All right,
Thank you.
you bet. Thank you. All right, next item on our agenda is a public hearing on the Chase Bank use by special review and a minor development plat. And we will open the public hearing at 7:50 p.m. And this is Stacy. Again, Stacy.
Yes, hello again. So as soon as we get the presentation up, I will start.
Is the presentation not showing up?
No, it's like you're, no, it's a screen. While we're doing that, Bryce, do we have two motions on this or just one?
Two.
Yeah, so there are two motions.
Okay.
But one is for the use by special review and one is for the minor development plat.
Okay. All right.
Can everybody see the presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Rosemary.
All right. So good evening again. So this evening, the applicant is requesting a use by special review to allow a bank drive-through and a minor development plat to create one 6.613 acre commercial lot. The applicant has also submitted a site plan application, which is being reviewed concurrently, but will be approved administratively. Next slide, please. So the subject site is located at the southwest corner of Parker Road and Mainstreet. The site is located within the Greater Downtown District Town Center zoning. The applicant is requesting two applications. The first application is a use by special review to allow for a single lane drive-through ATM associated with the bank use proposed on the property. The second application is a minor development plat to create 1.613 acre commercial lot and 1.103 acre tract for additional right-of-way along Main Street from two existing meets and bounds legal descriptions. Next slide, please. So the subject site was annexed into the town of Parker in 1984 as part of two separate annexation applications. The existing vacant gas station was constructed on the property in 1987. In 2003, the property was rezoned to become part of the Greater Downtown District, a zoning composed of 5 subdistricts, in this case, the Town Center subdistrict. The gas station on the property has been closed for approximately 5 years. Next slide, please. So the proposed use by special review is to allow for a single lane drive-through ATM associated with the bank use proposed on the property. The proposed bank is a use permitted by right. However, the proposed drive-through facility is listed as a use by special review within the Greater Downtown Town Center zoning. The drive-through is proposed to be located at the far southwest corner of the property, and it's highlighted in purple on this slide. Next slide, please. This proposal is consistent with the Parker 2035 Master Plan, which identifies the property within the Main Street Master Plan character area. The proposed bank will be constructed along Main Street with parking and the drive-through located on the south side of the property. The drive-through component is a drive-up ATM that is located at the far southwest corner of the property. So this property would limit any negative impacts on the surrounding community and services. The bank facility is classified as an office use or financial service, which is consistent with the general land use plan recommendations in Chapter 6 of the Parker 2035 Master Plan. The proposal has a 2-story massing and is proposed to reserve the westerly portion of the property for a future commercial addition to address the Main Street Master Plan recommendations for first floor active uses along Main Street. Next slide, please. The proposed minor development plat will create 1.613 acre commercial lot, which is outlined in red, and 1.103 acre tract for additional right-of-way along Main Street from 2 existing meets and bounds legal descriptions. The proposed minor development plat meets all requirements of the Land Development Ordinance and the Greater Downtown District Town Center zoning regulations. The proposed minor development plat includes 2 dedications to the town. The first dedication is additional right-of-way along Main Street. This is outlined in blue. This additional right-of-way will provide a continuous right turn lane from eastbound Main Street to southbound Parker Road. The second dedication is a sign easement that's outlined in purple along the Parker Road frontage to allow the town to install a Parker downtown sign. The applicant was asked to contribute towards half of the construction cost of the sign, but declined to contribute. Next slide, please. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a use by special review. These criteria are used to ensure the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding area, will not result in overuse of the land, create traffic congestion, or be detrimental to the town. The proposed drive-through ATM meets the 9 criteria. To address a few, the drive-through ATM will be one of 6 drive-through facilities located near this intersection. And highlighted on this slide are all of the drive-throughs at this intersection. The use is not anticipated to generate significant traffic volumes or lead to congestion, which might result in undue traffic hazards. In addition, the applicant will be dedicating additional right-of-way along Main Street for a future right turn lane. Next slide, please. The proposed use will demolish the existing vacant gas station, which consists of 2 structures, and replace it with 1 building. As part of the demolition, the applicant will remove the existing underground fuel storage tanks. The applicant has been monitoring the groundwater and soil for any contamination and will be required to continue to monitor for contamination throughout the demolition process. Although the town will require a grading permit through the Public Works Engineering Department and a permit through Fire Life Safety for this work, the ultimate review authority is with the state of Colorado. Next slide, please. The proposed Chase Bank with drive-through facility will clean up the existing southwest corner of Main Street and Parker Road by removing the existing vacant gas station. The proposed development will include many benefits to the town of Parker, including the dedication of additional right-of-way along Main Street, the dedication of a sign easement to allow the town to build a downtown sign at a prominent intersection, additional sidewalk connections and landscaping. The impacts created by the proposed single-lane drive-through ATM will be mitigated by locating it at the southwest corner of the property and screening it from view with the building and landscaping. After evaluating the information provided by the applicant for the use by special review, staff has determined that the requested use meets the 9 approval criteria set forth in the Land Development Ordinance. In addition, all referral agencies' comments have been addressed and all public notice requirements have been satisfied. Therefore, staff is recommending that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Chase Bank minor development plat in use by special review to allow a drive-through facility subject to the 3 conditions contained in staff's report. This concludes staff's report. The applicant is here with us tonight and does have a presentation for you, and I will be available for any questions you may have.
Okay, questions for Stacy. Ileana?
None at this time.
Rich?
None right now.
John? John? Question, John? We'll come back to John. Ruth Ann?
No questions at this time.
Kim?
I have a question, maybe this is the wrong time, but I know we've talked about this location. Are they going to, Stacy, is the town going to require that it's kind of built up within there to come to street level to make that consistent with kind of that corner?
Yes, so with, as you can, from the property existing, there, it drops off. And so there's a railing along the sidewalk along both Main Street and Parker Road. So
Right.
with the dedication of the additional right-of-way, to make that level with the existing Main Street and Parker Road, that'll be brought up. So the property, once it's fully developed, will almost be flush with Main Street. There will be a little tiny bit of grade towards Parker Road, but from the proposed site plan, there will be a continuous sidewalk similar to what you see on the east side of Parker Road along Main Street to the front door of the bank facility. So it will be even.
Okay, thanks.
Anthony?
Yeah, I just had one question also, which may be peripheral, but it's important. Is with the opening of this bank, what are the plans for the existing Chase Bank on the corner of Park and Hess? Is that planning to be closed down, or are we now going to have two banks?
That would be a question for the applicant, and I will let them address that.
Okay, that's great. That's what I was hoping. Thank you very much.
All right. Does the applicant want to come forward and give your name and address for the record, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Carolyn White. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here. Well, here in my home office, coming to you all via Zoom. I am the land use counsel for the applicant, and I believe staff is pulling up our presentation here momentarily. And while that is coming up, I'd like to mention that I and one other member of our team, Brian Reno, the architect, will be giving the presentation this evening, but we do have a complete complement of the team available should you have questions that are not in my or Brian Reno's bailiwick. So we thank you for the opportunity to present our application to you tonight. As was previously mentioned, the applicant is JP Morgan Chase Bank, who I will refer to as Chase for short. And on this slide, you can see all of the members of our team. The applicant is represented by Judith Van Houten, VP Market Director of Real Estate, and she is also available on the line with us. The property owner, Adam Smith of Leon Capital Group, Stantec Architecture, Brian Reno, the architect, who will be presenting with me, myself. We also have our engineering team here, Rob Devaney from R&R Engineers. We have our traffic engineer, Cassie Slade, and we have our project manager from CBRE, Sunil Dubey. Next slide, please. As was already pointed out, this is what the site looks like today. And I know that Stacy already mentioned it, but I want to reiterate it because I know it's a question that's on folks' mind. Yes, this site will be fully remediated as part of this project. It will be remediated by the property owner prior to being turned over to Chase for development of the project. Next slide. As you already know, we have two applications before you tonight. We have the use by special review for the ATM drive-through, and we have the minor development plat. And we will be briefly presenting to you an overview of the project to orient you to the site, and then summarizing how the project meets the criteria for those two applications. And of course, we're delighted to answer any of the questions that you may have when we get to that part. Next slide, please. These are a couple of photographs of what the site looks like today. Some were previously shown by staff. We've got the north elevation and the east elevation. That's the view from Parker Road there. And I'll show you another photograph in just a minute. A couple of things that I wanted to highlight that were taken into consideration as site constraints when this project was undertaken. The site is rather challenging to redevelop. It's rather small, 0.72 acres. And when you subtract the dedication of right-of-way, it gets even smaller, down to 0.6 acres, as was mentioned. You probably also noticed on the previous slides that it's not rectangular. In fact, some of the property boundaries are not straight lines, and has a little notch taken out of it. It requires a bit of some uniqueness in the design. We also, of course, have the obstacle to redevelopment presented by the former use as a gas station, the existing fuel tanks, and the need to remediate the site. This is also an unusual transition site in the sense that it's located at the intersection of a major arterial and a major connector, Parker Rd and Mainstreet. It's a heavily auto-oriented area in this location, but yet it's also connected to Main Street. As was mentioned, it's part of the town center overlay and is really intended ultimately to develop in a way that is complementary to the type of development pattern that you see along Main Street. Finally, there's also limited access combined with high visibility on this site. Next slide. Again, here's some additional views of what it looks like today, the south elevation and the west elevation. Next slide, please. We believe that the Chase team has successfully navigated these challenges to deliver what is going to be a really inviting use on this presently somewhat unsightly corner. So the north elevation is shown as is in the top and what it's going to look like in the bottom. In a moment, Brian Reno will come and talk through a little bit more detail about how the site's going to look. But you can see in the bottom photograph or the bottom illustration, towards the left, there is a plaza and landscaped amenity area, and there's also significant landscaping and amenities to the right of the building. Another key feature of this building is that although it is a one-story building, it reads as a two-story building, and will in that way comply with the town center requirements and continue that look of Main Street, you know, through across Parker Road and onto the other west side. Next slide. Here's the east elevation, same thing, the before and after, what it looks like today and what it's going to look like when this project is complete. You can also see the extensive landscaping intended to be installed along Parker Road, which will screen the drive-through ATM. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in a few moments later on in our presentation. Next slide. Here's the north elevation looking from Main Street, and you can also see here the corner Gateway Plaza at the left, the amenity zone at the right, and here's the east, actually I think we just had this slide. Next slide. There we go. Here's the west elevation and the south elevation, looking at this from the other side, looking north, and with the Gateway Plaza is on the right in the bottom slide. Next slide, please. I'd now like to turn it over to Brian Reno, the project architect, who's going to give you a little overview of the site and how it's going to look and what are some of the benefits and amenities associated with this use by special review and this use. Brian?
Great, thank you for having us today. You can hear me, I hope. And
yes, we can hear you fine, sir. Great,
thank you. I've actually been on and off the call twice because it kept getting dropped, so happy you can hear me. One of the challenges of the site and working through the downtown design guideline, greater downtown design guidelines and the Main Street guidelines was to get the building as close to the property line as possible while providing the new turn lane to the north and east. And I also wanted to point out, in case you were curious, there's a very large water main that runs along the right side of the building there that prevents the building from getting closer to Parker Road on that right side, and it runs along the site that way. Thank you for showing that. And important in looking at the improvements we're talking about here, we'll have approximately 25% less structure and paving. As one of the members asked, we're going to completely remove the retaining wall and fence. The high point of the site is really right at the corner of Parker and Main Street, and it slopes towards Neaters to the left along Main Street. It slopes down, and it slopes slightly down along South Parker Road towards the bus stop as it goes south. So what we've done is, besides putting our new building first floor elevation at that higher level and regrading the site, we've also created a corner landscape plaza to connect Sulphur Gulch Trail to the south and to connect to the corner and our building improvements. So you'll have no more unsightly retaining wall, no dangerous situations, and a handicapped accessible plaza and feature at that corner. We'll also at that kind of in that corner, but to the lower right of that corner, the town wanted to be able to continue its program for signage for the downtown area. So we've provided an easement for a future sign there, and that's right above those 3 trees on the lower right. And then the other important area, and just to give you an idea, the existing site had kind of a weed tree and a bush next to the dumpster for the gas station, and we're putting in about 6,500 square feet of new landscaped area with 25 new trees, 69 evergreen shrubs, 160 deciduous shrubs, 50 perennials, and about almost 2,000 square feet of ground covers. And then last but not least, we're putting it, because we're not what the town treats as an active use, we're a bank. In this case, we also created an amenity zone that leaves space for a future retail use should we be able to get one to go in. But in the meantime, we'll have an attractive landscaped amenity zone on the left side of the bank. All of these things were done to respond to the greater downtown design guidelines and the master plan. And again, the bank is a use by right, but importantly, we've taken advantage of that grade change that we mentioned earlier, because the southwest corner of the site where you see the note for drive up ATM, the drive up ATM is that center blue box there. That corner of the site is still about 5 feet lower than the hard corner at Parker and Mainstreet. So that allows us to screen the drive up both in elevation as well as with the extensive plantings that we've put on both the proper bank property. In addition, we are applying for a license to landscape CDOT property where those 3 brighter green trees are to the right of the plan. So we'll be adding landscaping to the CDOT right of way. We'll be adding landscaping to the site itself, and really strongly screening the drive up from Parker Road. The new 2-story building being at a higher elevation and 2 stories will screen the drive up from Main Street extensively along with the landscaping. And the other bank to the south of us with its building and drive up also screens that side. Next slide, please. Overall, the site amenities is a 2-story height building with limestone and aluminum and clear glass windows to create an active environment. The new Chase branch, unlike its older branch in town, which will remain, the new branch designs have a very interactive customer area set up for presentations and seminars on the first floor. So it'll be a really vibrant space to look into and experience on the first floor. Both of the new plazas that are on each side of the branch connect the right-of-way back to our parking area through accessible routes. We created an active event area, as I said, on the left, and a public plaza with seating on the right. It's a little bit obscured by landscaping, but the Sulphur Gulch Trail comes into the site from the southeast, and we're connecting that right into our plaza. So it'll no longer dump out into a parking lot. It will actually connect to the upper level right away eventually through our site. And again, you can see our proposed ATM at the lower corner. And as we're going to review quickly, because Stacy's already reviewed it, and I have been on the phone with you now for about almost 2 hours, and I know you've been through a lot. I can say with confidence we comply with the greater downtown district, town center zoning, land development ordinance, and the Parker 2035 master plan. And I will turn it over to
Thank you.
back to Carolyn. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, and thanks for that good overview of the site plan. As Brian noted, some of what we are highlighting here is really more part of the site plan review that will be conducted separately from this, but we thought it would, the Planning Commission would like to see how the site all fits together related to the specific use by special review question of the drive-through. As mentioned, we have 2 applications. We have the use by special review, which has 9 criteria in the code, and we have the minor development plat, which has 6 criteria. I'm now going to go through each and every one of those in excruciating detail, which will take, no, I'm just kidding, I'm not going to do that. As Brian noted, it really has been quite thoroughly covered in the staff report, especially, and also in tonight's presentation. I just would like to hit a couple of highlights, particularly about the first 2 criteria, which may be the most substantive, that is harmony and compatibility and consistency with the town master plan. So if I could have the next slide, please. This slide illustrates what was mentioned earlier, namely that in this vicinity, this will become one of 5 existing, one of 5 drive-throughs, and there are many other uses and businesses in this vicinity, particularly given the proximity to Parker Road, that have found it necessary and appropriate to have a drive-through to serve the needs of their customers. I won't go through and list them, but I will mention that during the last 9 months, we've certainly learned that there are certain times when it is more convenient and comfortable for customers to conduct business from their cars, and the drive-through is really a critical component for this type of business. So it's absolutely a critical part of the overall project. Harmony and compatibility also is applicable to how that use fits in visually with the surroundings, which hopefully we've given you enough information to be able to visualize with that site plan and the extensive landscaping that was mentioned. But it will be very well screened from the major thoroughfares. The drive-through will be, and it will be very, very difficult to see. Any potential visual impact will be significantly minimized, and yet it will still be very functional and convenient. Next slide, please. Then I want to briefly talk about consistency with town plans, and that includes the town master plan as well as the Main Street plan. Again, as was previously mentioned, this analysis was conducted by staff, and it was concluded that it is in fact consistent and that there are no major areas of inconsistency. So I won't go through each of these, but we've listed here on the next couple of slides some of the key goals and policies of those plan documents that are furthered by this project. And so we'll just quickly flip through the next 2 or 3 slides so that you can get a feel for the kinds of things we're talking about. Land uses that create a sense of community, accentuating key entry points to the town, particularly with the dedication of the sign easement and the plaza on the hard corner there. It's going to really help with accentuating that key entry point to the town. Next slide, please. Here we're transitioned from talking about the town master plan to the Parker Mainstreet master plan, which in addition to overall goals and policies also talks about specific site design components, such as putting the building close to the street, facilitating pedestrian environments, and so on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As you can see, there are so many goals with which it complies. We had trouble fitting them all on just a couple of slides. The next slide, oh, could you go back just one? So these last 2 slides just highlight the remaining criteria. It will not result in an over-intensive use of land, will not have a material adverse effect on community capital improvement programs, or level of community facilities greater than that which is available. I'd like to mention briefly that this use in fact generates considerably less traffic than the prior use located at this corner, and that many other types of retail or other uses which could be located in this location under the existing zoning. So it is actually a significant improvement in terms of the demand on existing facilities. That also fits with this criterion here about traffic congestion. As mentioned, this project will result in the cleanup of this site. So not only will it not create any significant pollution, it's actually going to improve the situation as it relates to air, water, and noise, and public health, safety, and welfare. Next slide. Moving on then to the minor development plat, the 6 criteria for the minor development plat. Interestingly, the first couple criteria are quite similar and overlap with what we've already talked about. So I won't reiterate those other than to say that the minor development plat also reveals that it is consistent with the goals and policies of the master plan, and also with the land development ordinance. Talking about the land development ordinance, we're talking mostly about more technical criteria such as stormwater drainage, environmental criteria, roadway design, and so on. Next slide. Oh, next slide, please. Are we stuck? There we go. Also, consistency with the town center standards is important, and that also is going to be looked at relative to the site plan review, which is going on concurrently. But relative to the minor development plat, the town center standards apply, which has to do with things like convenient access for all modes of transportation, and integrating this property with the rest of the town center design district as the downtown commercial core, which we think this particular design has done very successfully. Next slide. And then finally, technical criteria, notice, subdivision improvement agreement, and public dedication. As was mentioned, there are significant public dedications involved here, not only of right-of-way, but also of the sign easement that was mentioned earlier. Next slide. In conclusion, we think this design successfully navigates some of the challenges of this site, mitigates any potential impacts, and actually creates significant benefits to the town. It meets all of the criteria for use by special review and minor development plat, and we ask for your favorable recommendation. We'd be pleased to answer any questions that you may have, myself or other members of the team. I'll mute now unless it's time to answer a question.
All right, thank you. Questions for the applicant, Ileana?
None from me.
Rich?
None here.
John?
What are you looking at for a time frame for getting the project completed?
I might ask Brian to answer that question if you wouldn't mind unmuting, Brian.
Sure. Once we get through Plan Commission, and we hope we get through Plan Commission and Town Council, we then would complete our construction drawings and submit for permit most likely in January. And while the permit review is taking place, assuming we have all of our entitlements and zoning approvals completed, the remediation would start as soon as possible in the spring. We can't give the exact timeline of that because it's somewhat dependent upon weather, but we would expect to have our permits in hand and the remediation done in right towards the beginning of spring approximately, and then be constructing the building over a period of about 4 months from late spring to late summer, and God willing, be open in September or October.
Thank you.
Ruth Ann?
I have no questions at this time.
Kim?
I have no questions. Really nice, thorough presentation.
Anthony?
No questions. I'm just excited that we're finally moving ahead and doing something about that corner.
That's true. All right. As this is a public hearing, we ask members of the public if they wish to comment on this particular item before us to use the raise your hand feature on the application. We ask that you state your name and address for the record, and we ask that you are respectful to the staff, the commissioners, and the applicants. And so we will go to that feature. We will open the public hearing now. Rosemary?
We have Kristen Parsons wishes to speak.
Okay.
Hey guys, it's me again. This is
Okay.
Kristen Parsons. I live in the Pinery, and I have been very active on Nextdoor. The Pinery, Stroh Ranch, Pradera, and everything pretty much south of King Supers is very concerned about this issue. So one of the first words that came out of the presentation from, I'll say Leon Capital, but Chase, was remediate, which is very concerning to me. So I would like someone to address remediate. As far as I know, they're under an NFA. But for Carolyn to use the word remediate, I understand tanks need to come out. But then I think it was Brian that said, oh, we're going to remediate spring and we'll be open by October. That was very concerning to me because I'm an environmental engineer. So to just kind of gloss over all of that is bothersome. And then to the commission and the council, a bank, a bank, a bank, a bank. Come on, guys. A bank? I mean, let's at least send Whole Foods a Christmas card. Was there a site selection study? I mean, isn't there something else that we can propose as opposed to a bank? Unfortunately, I've spoken to Leon Capital, and that's about all they've been able to come up with. And I know that for a fact. And so I think for the one gentleman to say, well, that's better than nothing is kind of unfortunate. And I'd like to see people or many organizations come and fight. That's a prideful location. mean, that's Main Street and Parker Road. What are our other options? Don't just say, yep, well, something's better than nothing. Let's get something up there. What are the other options? Let's see some competition up here. A bank? Really? A bank? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Rosemary?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, then we will close the public comment aspect of the meeting. Any further questions for the applicant or Stacy?
None for me.
Commissioners? Okay.
Actually, Gary, I have one.
Okay.
Just real quick, just out of curiosity, has anybody else asked to purchase that piece of property other than Chase?
I think you might be directing that question to the property owner, Adam Smith. When he's finished addressing that, I wonder, Mr. Chair, if you'd like us to briefly address the question of remediation as well, just for the record.
Please.
So I'll be answering both. All right, my name is Adam Smith. I'm with Leon Capital Group. I'm the Senior Vice President of Retail, and our address is 3500 Maple Avenue, Suite 1600, Dallas, Texas, 75219.
You're kind of breaking up, sir.
Yeah, can someone let him know? We can't understand him at all.
We couldn't understand any of that. Carolyn?
Okay. Hold on, sorry.
He's going to switch his audio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, is that any better?
Yes, yes, thank you.
Okay. Sorry, my name's Adam Smith. I'm with Leon Capital Group, and I'm the Senior Vice President of Retail, and our address is 3500 Maple Avenue, Suite 1600, Dallas, Texas, 75219.
Welcome.
So, thank you. Let me answer the first question, which is, has there been another purchase of the property? No, this project has been in process for the last 2 years. So during that time, it's been under contract, and there hasn't been another buyer for this, as that would be improper. And prior to that, the previous 4 or 5 years that we had this, nothing materialized in terms of being able to be a viable project. And a lot of it is due to all the things that both Carolyn and Brian spoke to, which are the site challenges. In order to lay something out and to meet the various standards that are applicable to the site via the overlays and via code, it is very difficult to lay out what most users could find usable on a site of this size. And so I think Chase, again, is why they're here today, and it's why I think their project and layout looks successful, is because it does meet the criteria better than anything that I've seen over the history of owning this. So hopefully that gives you a better idea of how we got to here. And obviously staff and Chase worked tirelessly on this plan. That's why it took 2 years to get to this first hearing, because there was a lot of back and forth that ultimately resulted in the plans you saw today. As it relates to the remediation, the very first encounter with the gas tanks on the site, as it relates to the time we've owned it, was basically in 2017. We basically started the process to close the tanks out, and to do that prior to having a viable project, which would require demo of what's out on site, and then also obviously pulling the tanks out of the ground. To close those tanks out, we had to temporarily to get basically a temporary closure, and basically the first NFA that you're going to receive in a process like this. So we had to drain the tanks down to less than an inch of fluid inside the tanks. We had to go through and install 6 monitoring wells, basically evenly spread throughout the site, 2 up on the north side, 2 basically in the center of the site, and 2 on the south side of the site. Monitor groundwater and what was being measured on the site, and then produce a very, very detailed report. It's over 300-something pages, and present that to the state for that initial closure. We obtained that NFA in April of 2018. And basically the next step at this point is has been basically to continue to monitor the site to make sure there's not any, groundwater impacts at an actionable level, which there hasn't been. And two, it's to basically have something that necessitates the pulling of the tanks, so we can actually, take the readings with our environmental company, which is CGRS, and to basically produce additional reports and make sure that an ultimate closure is obtained with a final NFA with the state, to prove out that this site has basically been handled from the UST perspective under state or Colorado state regulations. So that's the next step. That ultimately, as Brian said, will happen. Basically, all the demo will occur. We'll get down into the earth, pull the tanks out, take samples of the soil, et cetera, to further the data we've already been gathering over the previous 3 years, and then produce all that and present it to the state and let them review it. And assuming there's not something there that's concerning, which should be the case based on previous results of monitoring that we've done, a final NFA should be issued from a regulatory perspective, which will close out USTs on the site.
Thank you very much. That was very thorough.
Thank you.
Other questions from the commissioners?
And from me.
Not hearing any?
None.
All right. Then.
I just have a small one, Gary.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I'm assuming that the traffic flow plan, we won't see the site plan because that's administrative, but the traffic flow for the ATM drive-through will be subject to engineering department review, correct?
Yes, that is
Stacy.
correct.
Okay. All right, Ruth Ann? Okay. Okay. All right. Then we will close the public hearing at 8:31. Commissioner discussion, Ileana.
Well, first of all, thank you to the applicant and everyone else involved in this process for a very thorough, not only presentation, but your answers are certainly spot on. So we appreciate that. That's why you're not hearing a lot of questions. So I am in favor of moving this forward. I'd like to see that plan put to good use and not have to be somewhat of a stickler for the last couple of years. So thank you. Appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to do this.
Rich?
Yeah, I think with the proposed changes of a new building and improved landscaping, better pedestrian usage, and the right turn lane, I think it's going to be a welcome improvement to that and a compliment to the area. So I'll be in favor of it.
John?
It meets all of the criteria. I will again reiterate for Eliana that I think the staff, as well as the applicant and the all people involved, have given us great information. It is probably a ideal building for that small of a site in that area, on a site that was almost unacceptable to any other people that we've had come through Parker. So I'm very much in favor of it.
Ruth Ann?
I agree. It meets all the criteria. You've done a very good job of pointing all those out and how you met them. I am particularly pleased about the inclusion of the plaza areas, because those will help activate that area, and the fact that we'll have pedestrian access improved and access for handicap access to that area is also good, and improves the use of the trail system. It's an attractive, high quality redevelopment project, and I am so happy to have it going forward.
Kim?
I agree with all my commissioners. I also understand that the Planning Commission does not pick the type of business that goes into specific areas. So that's the developer's choice. I'm sure they've done a lot of research as to whether the bank would go or not. And I'm thinking they wouldn't have put the bank in this location if they felt it was going to fail. So I commend them for buying this piece of property, doing all the remediation and mitigation that needs to be done, and looking forward to having an improvement on that corner.
Anthony?
Yeah, I'm also very pleased with this proposal, and I think that Chase has done a fantastic job here in landscaping and making the place look nice, and that will really be a credit to that corner. I did want to comment on a couple of the public comments that were made. You know, that whole area is not the kind of area that, you know, people, if I brought my family in town, I'd want to take them strolling down past that area. If you look at that intersection, you know, on the opposite corner there's the shopping center, and the closest thing to the corner is the Wells Fargo Bank. If you look at the other corner, there's an office building, and then of course the other corner is O'Brien Park. So I don't think that the bank is out of character on that corner at all. And again, with the beautiful landscaping and even the chairs, which I really like, and the chairs and the tables, I think makes it look very attractive. And with regards to the comment about Whole Foods, I would personally dearly love to have a Whole Foods in this town, or at least close by, and or a Trader Joe's. I was just looking at the map here, and if you take the Safeway, which is in the same shopping center, I don't know how they would feel about a Whole Foods in the corner, but if you lift up that Safeway and you plonk it in the corner, the Chase Bank corner there, it would completely cover, it looks like, that corner and the Needers next door and a little bit more. So I don't think Whole Foods, even if they were coming to town, would be interested in that corner. It's a very small corner. But I thought those were valid concerns, but I just wanted to address all the reasons why you know, the Whole Foods wouldn't have gone there. But I'm certainly in favor of this. Again, I think fantastic presentation by everybody, and I will certainly be in favor of moving this forward.
I don't really have much to add. I again thank Stacy and staff and the applicants for a very complete and thorough explanation of what the plans are here, and I'll be in favor of it as well. We've got two motions here. The first motion, do we have a motion?
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Chase Bank use by special review to allow for a drive-through subject to the 3 conditions contained in staff's report.
Second.
I did. Was that Rich? Okay. It's been moved by John, seconded by Rich, that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Chase Bank use by special review to allow for a drive-through subject to the 3 conditions contained in staff's report. And I will call the question. Ileana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
And chair is aye, passes unanimously. All right, second motion.
I move Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Chase Bank minor development plat.
I'll second.
It's been moved by John, seconded by Ileana, that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the Chase Bank minor development plat. And we'll call the question again. Ileana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Chair is aye, passes unanimously. All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
You bet. Thank you.
Good luck, you guys.
All right.
All right. Are people okay? Keep rolling?
Keep it going.
Okay, here we go. Next item is a public hearing on the Hess Ranch Plan Development Rezone. Trackets numbers Z20-005. And we will open the public hearing at, I lost my clock again, 8:39. Brianna.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Chairman and Planning Commission. This is a proposal for a plan development amendment to both the PD guide and the map. Next slide, please. The subject property is located generally south and west of the intersection of Stroh Road and Crowfoot Valley Road. The applicant, Front Range Communities, is requesting the approval of a zoning amendment to segment 2A and 2B to the Hess Ranch PD. Please note the majority of the rezoning is taking place in segment 2A, which is our focus this evening. Specifically, the applicant is requesting the following changes: planning area boundary amendments, Stroh Road realignment, and partial waiver resolution compliance. Next slide, please. The applicant is requesting to amend these planning area boundaries to support the dendritic design. This design is a way to preserve the natural features of the site, such as floodplains, drainage ways, and existing topography. The applicant has shown compliance with the requested open space and community park space outlined in the annexation agreement. It is important to note that while planning area boundaries are proposing to be reconfigured, there is no increase in the overall number of units that are currently permitted in these planning areas. Next slide, please. Next slide. The applicant is requesting to realign Stroh Road to the northern border shared with the Anthology North property to accommodate drainage and grading needs of the site. The proposed PD shows the new proposed location of Stroh Road. Stroh Road, Chambers Road, and Spirit Trail Boulevard will provide access to the future commercial development and filings for the planned individual residential lots. All future access for these roadways will meet the town spacing criteria. Staff has reviewed and analyzed the information provided on the access and proposed relocation of Stroh Road and supports the new design. The Stroh Road realignment will not result in a change in the allowed number of residential units, required open space, or parks requirements. Next slide, please. In May of 2019, Town Council approved a partial waiver resolution to allow the applicant to develop the subject property into two segments. The first segment is generally the eastern 1/3 of the subject property, and segment 2 being the balance of the property. The partial waiver resolution was approved provided two obligations were met. The first being 1/3 of planning areas 3, 4, 12, and 14 be developed for only commercial uses. The applicant has completed the outline analysis found in the waiver resolution and has provided approximately 23 acres of commercial land within the new planning area boundaries shown in planning areas 3 and 4, which are outlined in red on the screen. Whereas the remaining area will continue to be mixed use, found in the new boundaries shown in planning areas 12 and 14 outlined in black on this screen. Next slide, please. The second obligation to the partial waiver resolution is to provide a parks, trails, and open space master plan for all neighborhood and community parks found in segment 2A. The Hess Ranch Parks, Trails, and Open Space Master Plan shows compliance with the requirements outlined in the partial waiver resolution and the new park standards that were adopted by the town on October 19th of 2020. This plan will continue to be updated as the associated parks in Planning 2B are planned and developed. Next slide, please. There are 9 criteria used to evaluate a rezoning application. These criteria are used to ensure that the rezoning is consistent with the surrounding area, will not result in overuse of the land, create traffic congestion, or be detrimental to the town. Staff has determined that the proposed changes better align with the 9 criteria, as incorporating the dendritic design, preserves the existing natural areas, is compliant with the master plan, and does not change any residential densities. Next slide, please. Staff has reviewed the proposal as outlined in staff's report and has determined that the project is consistent with the master plan. The project satisfies the 9 criteria required in the land development ordinance for a rezone, and the public notice requirements have been met. Staff is recommending that Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Hess Ranch Plan Development rezoning. Staff is available for any questions the Planning Commissioners may have, and the applicant is also present this evening to answer any questions, and they would like to provide a presentation for you at this time.
Any questions for Brianna first? Ileana?
None from me.
Rich?
None.
John?
None.
Ruth Ann?
Not at this time.
Kim,
Nope.
Anthony,
Sorry, none.
and none from the chair. All right. I think it's Mr. Osborne. Do you want to state your name and address again for the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my name is Matt Osborne. I'm with Front Range Communities. The address is 4100 East Mississippi Avenue, Suite 500, Denver, Colorado 80246.
Well, welcome, Mr. Osborne.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We do have a presentation this evening. I'll try and, with the late hour and the previous public hearings, I'll try and move through fairly quickly, but there's a fair amount to address here tonight, so I'll make sure I cover that as well. Just to quickly run through the Hess Ranch PD plan, we've renamed the community Looking Glass, but still working under the Hess Ranch PD plan. The team members who are also available tonight on the call should questions arise. Eric McDaniel with EMK Consulting Engineers, our engineer or civil engineer. Karen Henry with Henry Design Group, our planner and landscape architect. And CJ Kirsch, Tahoe Land Services, who provides project management and oversight of our on-site development activities. Next slide, please. Again, as Ms. Simon mentioned, some context for the Looking Glass community. It's located at the essentially southwest of the corner of Stroh Road and Crowfoot-Motzenbacher intersection. We are located to the north and west of Crowfoot Valley Road, north of the trails at Crowfoot, which is under construction, and south of Anthology, the portions of Anthology that are currently completed and those that are forthcoming. And we, to the south of our property and to the immediate west of our property, unincorporated Douglas County, and to our northwest, River Hess Reservoir. Next slide, please. As we walk through the community tonight, we reference various segments and essentially phases of our community. Segment 1, 2A, and 2B, essentially running from east to west through the property. Next slide, please. The segment 1 of the PD plan, we were before the Planning Commission last August for the second amendment to the PD plan, which, as Ms. Simon mentioned, incorporated various elements of the dendritic design philosophy, which basically identifies important drainage ways and drainage patterns through the site, and provides for a distributed drainage program or distributed detention program. And really the resulting plan surrounds the preservation of these drainage corridors and open space corridors. And so the amendment 2 that incorporated segment 1 was incorporating planning area boundary changes that resulted in those segment 1 planning areas, that second amendment to the PD plan, again, was approved by Planning Commission in August of 2019, Town Council in November of 19, and then the subsequent sketch and preliminary plans for segment 1 were approved later in 2019. Next slide, please. This is a illustrative plan of the segment 1 neighborhoods within the community. This is the area that is currently under development. If you've been down in the area, again, Crowfoot Valley Road to the right, the southeast, Chambers Road that bisects the southern portion of segment 1, Spirit Trail Boulevard, a collector road that runs along the west side of segment 1, and Stroh Road, which runs along the northern boundary. A total of 678 lots, over 136 acres of open space, and over 17 acres of parks in our segment 1. Next slide, please. And if you haven't been out to the site, there is a lot going on. So these are just some updated site photos. The 2 photos to the left reflect the construction of the Chambers Road Bridge over Lemon Gulch, which will extend Chambers from Crowfoot Valley Road eventually north to Stroh Road. The photo to the right is the Spirit Trail Bridge, which spans Brandy Gulch along the collector road that will connect Chambers, and Stroh Road in our first segment. So a lot going on the site. We expect with this construction and with pavement that has already been placed on Chambers, Spirit Trail, and Stroh Road that we expect to see home construction in late spring of 2021. Next slide, please. So before you this evening is a request for the third amendment for the PD plan for Hess Ranch. As Ms. Simon walked you through, the significant changes in this plan from the second amendment are the realignment of Stroh Road, the boundary adjustments for the planning areas based on the dendritic drainage approach, the consolidation of the mixed-use planning areas at Stroh and Chambers intersection in accordance with the waiver resolution, the consolidation of several park areas, and also the realignment of the regional trail from the southern boundary into the Brandy Gulch open space through the center of the property. Next slide, please. This is an enhanced view of that segment 2 and 2A. Stroh Road again on the north, Chambers bisecting this segment, and Spirit Trail on the east side, which will eventually circulate through segment 2 through the southern planning areas and eventually up and connect to Anthology at Stroh Road on the north. Next slide, please. So just a reminder of how we came to this point with the plan. Again, the focus on the dendritic design and drainage plan that we incorporated in segment 1 with Lemon Gulch, the main drainage along the southeast portion of the property, Brandy Gulch extending through the center of segment 1, extending to the west. The second amendment to the PD was driven by this dendritic approach, resulting in some adjustments to planning areas. But really the result are some very significant open space areas, as I mentioned before, over 136 acres of open space, and really an organic feel to this community and integrating those open space areas up into the neighborhoods in segment 1. Also resulted in a number of what will be high quality parks that will be homeowners association maintained, but will lay the foundation for a very nice amenity package within the community and within these neighborhoods. Next slide, please. So that same approach was taken as we shifted to the west into segments 2A and what will eventually be 2B. Segment 2A, it's a little bit difficult to see, but segment 2A is bounded by the dark blue line that runs essentially from Spirit Trail on the east, Stroh Road to the north, Oak Gulch to the west, Brandy Gulch to the south. I'm picking up a couple planning areas that are that straddle Spirit Trail, one just south of Brandy Gulch and one that's on the southern boundary that's directly adjacent to segment 1. Again, the principles of the dendritic drainage plan, extending those principles through Brandy Gulch, which is the main drainage, the east-west drainage to the property. I will note too that with segment 2A, eventually we will come forward with a sketch and preliminary plan ultimately for segment 2A and eventually 2B, but segment 2A will include the extension of Chambers Road from where it will terminate at Spirit Trail all the way to our northern boundary with an eventual extension through the Anthology property to Hess Road. We will also extend Stroh Road from the termination at Spirit Trail Boulevard through the Chambers intersection to the west side of segment 2A. So these will be significant improvements to the transportation infrastructure for the town of Parker that we're excited to see come to fruition. Next slide, please. The other important element of segment 1 that's carried forward into segments 2A and 2B were our parks and open space areas. Again, in segment 1, consolidating those areas along Lemon Gulch and Brandy Gulch, totaling over 136 acres. A series of 6 neighborhood parks that'll serve the segment 1 neighborhoods totaling over 17 acres. Next slide, please. So that same concept was extended into segment 2, as I mentioned, or 2A. The Brandy Gulch open space area being the predominant spine for segment 2A and that open space area that will be adjacent to a number of the planning areas in this segment. Additionally, the large community park PA15 that's in the center of the site will be, that was a consolidation of two park planning areas, one that was to the east of Chambers Road, one that was to the west. We consolidated that into one large park area. I have some details on that in a moment, but in segment 2A, the total park area will be just over 53 acres, 32 acres of park space and 53 acres of open space area in segment 2A. And again, you'll be seeing, hopefully in the first quarter of 2021, a sketch and preliminary plan for segment 2A. Next slide, please. So here's a consolidated view of segments 2A and 2B. As I mentioned, significant park areas in both. The parks in 2A totaling 32 acres, 25 of those in the large community park in PA15, another 6 acres in the neighborhood parks that are scattered through the neighborhoods. And then in 2B, the plan for 27 acres of parks in PA18 and PA28, potentially with some neighborhood parks that will be integrated into some of the planning areas going forward. But all told, a total of over 60 acres of parks in the entire 70 acres of parks in all of Looking Glass, which will be very significant, 76 acres to be exact, and over 285 acres of open space integrated across Looking Glass, which are both in excess of the annexation agreement requirements and the land development ordinance requirements. Next slide, please. Next slide. Sorry. So this just reflects, I know this is small, but this reflects the differences between the Second Amendment that I mentioned previously that was approved in 2019 and the Third Amendment. The predominant changes, obviously the Stroh Road alignment, the consolidation of the mixed use and commercial areas at Stroh and Chambers, the consolidation of the park area at the center of the community, the planning area boundary adjustments, and the realignment of the regional trail, and just again, the extension of the Chambers and Stroh roads being a critical element of this plan. Next slide, please. So here's just an overview of what you will see, I guess a sneak preview of the sketch and preliminary plan for segment 2A, integrated with segment 1. And as I mentioned, we hope to be in front of the Planning Commission in early 2021 to review the details of the sketch and preliminary plans for segment 2A. Next slide, please. As Ms. Simon mentioned, one of the other requirements of this PD amendment was to meet the requirements of the waiver resolution that was approved in 2019. One of those requirements was to provide a minimum of 1/3 of the developable land area of the mixed use areas that were located at Stroh and Chambers, and to be 1/3 of those dedicated to commercial uses. And so just want to quickly walk through those requirements and how those have been met. Ms. Simon mentioned those already. Next slide, please. So we took the two parcels, actually the 4 parcels that were on the 4 corners of Stroh and Chambers. The old alignment, the intersection of Stroh and Chambers was, if you can look down at the bottom of that slide, you can see some pretty heavy along Chambers, some pretty heavy contours. That was about the location of the intersection, the proposed intersection of Stroh and Chambers. Was going to be very challenging from an engineering standpoint. And so one of the important elements of this change was moving Stroh to the north and then integrating these commercial parcels and mixed use parcels into the realigned intersection. So the commercial parcels now will total about 24 acres, about 20 acres on the west side of Chambers, and just about 4 acres on the east side. Again, meets the 1/3 of the developable land requirement in the waiver resolution. And then the remaining 2 parcels on the east and west side will retain their mixed use zoning going forward. Next slide, please. This provides a little bit more detail, as Ms. Simon mentioned, a conceptual layout for the commercial uses, and also identifies the usability of these sites and the mixed use with access noted, the full green circles noting full movement intersections, and the half circles reflects right in, right out approaches to those parcels. Next slide, please. As Ms. Simon mentioned, the second requirement of the waiver resolution was an updated Parks, Trails, and Open Space plan. We did have one of that plan was approved with the segment 1 PD amendment. For the second amendment, that open space plan was reviewed and approved by Planning Commission and Town Council. This has now been updated, and so I just want to quickly walk through some of the updates to that plan. One of the most important being the trail connectivity plan. So taking the regional trail that will extend essentially from Cherry Creek to the east through the Lemon Gulch drainage, up Brandy Gulch, and eventually to the Oak Gulch drainage through the site. The previous plan had that regional trail on the southern boundary. We felt it was important to integrate it into the Brandy Gulch open space area, provided better access certainly to some of the park areas that are located along that open space area, to the future school site, and many of the planning areas within the neighborhood. So this was a critical element to that change. And I think this will be a great amenity, not just for the Looking Glass community, but for the town of Parker. So we're very excited to see this come to fruition. Next slide, please. This is an enhanced view of that trail through segment 2A and 2B, again, extending the regional trail through Brandy Gulch, tying into the various park areas along Brandy Gulch. We will still have some other local connections that will provide a 5-mile loop through the community. Again, a very nice amenity that will be available to the residents of Looking Glass and to all the residents of Parker. Next slide. The other element of the Parks, Trails, and Open Space plan, obviously, is also the importance of parks. And so we work closely with town staff to update the Parks, Trails, and Open Space plan. And this slide reflects the service areas for the various parks that will serve both Looking Glass and also serve as amenities for the adjacent neighborhoods and the entire town of Parker. Next slide, please. This is an expanded plan of the PA-15, the community park that would be built at the northeast corner of Chambers and Spirit Trail. This meets the recently adopted updated park standards that Ms. Simon mentioned. Right now, the plans for this site, and this will come before you as we move through the sketch and preliminary plan for segment 2A, but the intent is to include such amenities as a private pool facility, open ball fields, programmable sports fields, a dog park. We've also reserved potentially an area for a future rec center site that would overlay the dog park at some point in the future if the city or if the town determines that it would like to see that come to fruition. Overall, this park site is almost 26 acres in size. If you add in the adjacent open space areas along Brandy Gulch and to the north, it totals almost 38 acres. An important component is the regional trail that runs through the center of the site and provides access both inside Looking Glass and outside. Next slide, please. So this just shows an overall site plan reflecting the lotting for segment 1, which, as I mentioned before, is under construction, and then 2A, which you will hopefully see in early 2021. Again, there's the main focus with this PD amendment and that we're requesting tonight, and the approval of the open space, Parks, Trails, and Open Space plan is the strong link that we've created through the site with open space and park areas based on that dendritic design approach and the integration of these important open space and drainage areas. Certainly the extension of the important transportation links on Chambers and Stroh Road. And as I mentioned, the consolidation of 2 of the park areas from the previous the prior PD amendment plan. Next slide, please. So this is just an overall view of the PD plan. Again, with all those elements incorporated. And next slide, please. And that's the conclusion of my presentation. I just wanted to thank staff for their assistance in moving the process forward with respect to this PD amendment. There are a lot of details that get glossed over in a presentation like this, but thank you to Ms. Simon in planning, Alex Meston engineering, Alex Eaton and Dennis Trapp in parks, and other members of staff. This has been a very collaborative effort to develop this plan, both for segment 1 and certainly for segments 2A and 2B. And we're very excited to see it coming to fruition with the development, and look forward to the future plans for segments 2A and 2B. I would request for your approval based on the application satisfaction of the approval criteria provided by Ms. Simon in the staff report. And I thank you for your time and consideration, and I am available for any questions. And sorry for going through that so quickly, but I just want to be respectful of your time tonight.
You're muted.
Thank you. Okay, Ileana.
No questions.
Rich.
None.
John.
No questions.
Ruth Ann.
I have questions for staff. Is now the right time?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So the first question I have, this is where the DCSD confirmation question belonged, not the first one. Was that addressed?
So the Douglas Schools comment was addressed and has been confirmed.
Okay. Next, our engineering department had a request for a concurrent PD because of the movement of Stroh Road.
Yes.
Has that PD been addressed?
Yes, that was the Anthology North plan development that you saw at the last meeting.
I thought so, but I want to make sure. And then there was a comment by Douglas County on regional trails. And they were citing some plans that had been in place some 10 years ago. In staff's opinion, does the regional trail system that's been developed through this plan meet and sufficiently address that concern?
So those plans were provided through an IGA that the town no longer has with Douglas County, and that buffer through that area has not been reduced. So the town has determined that it still satisfies those criteria, even though it's not required because there's no IGA today.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Kim?
Great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have nothing. Thorough presentation.
Okay. Anthony?
No, nothing.
Back to Brianna or Matt, the school issue, they wanted, and I know that's standard process from years of being in that business, that they needed 2 roads. It's got to be kind of by 2 roads to get buses and people. So Brianna, you said that was resolved?
So that will get determined through the sketch and preliminary process. At this point,
okay,
the roadways haven't been developed, so it's been resolved for now.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, seeing no further comment, we will close the public hearing at 9:09. Commissioner discussion, Ileana.
First of all, thank you for a very, very thorough presentation. Appreciate the fact that you've done not only a very deep dive, but a very extremely thorough one. So saying that, I am in full support and don't see any reason to have any further questions. So thank you.
Rich?
Yes, just another great job done by town staff working with the developer and creating a lot of trails and open space and natural vegetation and drainage areas. And I think it's going to be a first-class neighborhood for Parker. I'll be in favor of it.
Let's just hold right there for a minute because I skipped right over public comment. My fault. Rosemary's probably yelling at me. As this is a public meeting, we will open the discussion to public comment. And we'll have to reopen the hearing. So we're reopening the hearing at 9:10. And we will call for any public comment. If you have a comment on this item before the Planning Commission, please use the raise your hand feature on the Zoom application.
There are no raised hands, Chair.
There are no raised hands. So we will close the public comment and we will reclose the public hearing at 9:10 and go back to John.
Yeah, Looking Glass is going to be a real first-class neighborhood, and what I am just very pleased about is that the developers working with the town are embracing the dendritic drainage principles, and it helps in a number of ways. It takes away some of the what I would call clutter building, and it also helps us to have better open space, better parks, and overall, I think this is a great program. Would like to thank staff and Matt for just a very, very informal presentation that gave us a lot of information.
Ruth Ann?
I'd just like to echo what John said. I'm very impressed. I love the dendritic designs, and I am well impressed with how well they're working with staff and Parks and Rec to make sure that it's a high-class development that'll benefit not only the residents of that development, but all of Parker.
Kim?
I don't have a whole lot to add. I'm glad this is a fluid process for improvements, not just sticking to the original plan because that's what was submitted. So other than that, no, it's a great plan.
Anthony?
No, just what everybody else said. I thought that was an exciting project. I want to thank Brianna and Matt for their presentations. It looks great. I got a particular interest in this area because I live in Stroh Ranch, kind of kiddie corner to where all this is going on. We're already experiencing the mess at that traffic light on Motzenbacher and Stroh. You fix everything there, so we get to see that every day. So looking forward to seeing it all play out. So I'm totally in support of it. So thanks.
Hopefully those improvements will be done before too long.
Yeah. I have nothing further to add from what my fellow commissioners have said. I'm certainly in support of the project and it looks well thought out and planned. Do we have a motion?
I move the Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Hess Ranch Plan Development rezoning.
I'll second.
It's been moved by John, seconded by Rich. The Planning Commission recommend Town Council approve the requested Hess Ranch Plan Development rezoning. And I'll call the question. Ileana?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Ruth Ann?
Aye.
Kim?
Aye.
Anthony?
Aye.
Chair's aye, passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda, I believe, Rosemary, is our schedule. I assume that would be 2021.
Yes, sir. That is correct. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at the dates, but there is one anomaly on there, November the 11th, 2021. That is Veterans Day. Town offices are closed, so the commission will need to consider having it the week before, which would be November 4th, or the week after, November 18th.
Thoughts, commissioners?
If you
I'm
have
good with either.
Yeah, if you have it the week after, you're having it a bit close to Thanksgiving, you may not get a very good turnout. I would say the week before.
I would agree with Ileana. I think the week before is a better choice.
Works for me.
Works for me.
I agree.
I'm on.
Sounds like that works, Rosemary.
Okay, so let's have a motion to approve the 2021 meeting schedule, moving November 11th to November 4th.
Motion.
Also move that. I move that we accept the 2021 meeting schedule with the movement of the November 11th date to November the 4th.
Second.
Ruth Ann. It's been moved by Anthony, seconded by Ruth Ann, that we accept the Planning Commission meeting schedule while rescheduling the November 11th meeting to November 4th. And I'll call the question. Ileana.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
John.
Aye.
Ruth Ann.
Aye.
Kim.
Aye.
Anthony.
Aye.
Chair is aye. Passes unanimously. Any other items, Bryce?
No, sir. Just a reminder that on December 10th is the last training session, and that will be at 5:30 p.m.
And you're bringing dinner, right? Or delivering, right?
Also, we have no items for that meeting at this time, so the meeting probably will be canceled, but there will be training.
Okay. Okay.
I'm happy to have the training anyway, just to get it finished. If that's, I don't know.
There we go. All right. Well, then we will adjourn this Planning Commission meeting at 9:16.